Hello, fellow audio nerds. I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. This week, I got a chance to spend some quality time with the Mr. Speakers Etherflow 1.1 headphones. So, let me share my experience with you. Let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I will meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Mr. Speakers Etherflow 1.1, and I'm super psyched to give them a listen. So yeah, let's see what's inside the box here. Alright, so as you'll see here, it's sort of a simple package. So there's this really nice hard shell case here, zips up. It's got the Mr. Speakers logo up there. We've got a cable. Now with the Mr. Speakers Etherflow 1.1, you can actually choose the cable that you want. All of them come with the Vivo cable, and I'll get into more detail about that a little bit later when I talk about the design of the headphone. But for this one, I've got the 1/4-inch cable here with a 1/4-inch Neutrik connector. We've got some documentation here, the certificate of authenticity, as well as a little microfiber cloth here for the headphones. And then, of course, we've got the headphones themselves. So as for the design of the headphones, the headband is sort of the Mr. Speakers headband. It's got this two-tier design. There are two sort of wires, wire bands that go along the top here, and then this strip of leather underneath it with the Mr. Speakers logo there. Now the headband, very, very flexible. You can sort of bend it all over the place. And then the leather piece actually attaches via a little screw here to this plastic piece, which then these can slide up and down the headband here to sort of like adjust the sizing of it. Those bands also sort of connect right here to this little yoke here, and then the yoke attaches to both sides of the ear cup via these little screws here. And in general, it feels super well made. Feels really good. It's flexible. In terms of like how much these ear cups can rotate, it's not like a full rotation, but it's enough that it's like plenty that you would need for different kind of shaped heads and everything. I think that these headphones will actually fit a pretty wide range of heads. And I have a pretty small head. It feels really good. I've got a good clamping force. It doesn't feel overly clamped, but it does feel super secure. There's definitely a sense of balance from this headband. I kind of feel the headband kind of touches the entire sort of like width of my head, which gives it that extra feeling of stability and balance, and I like it. As for the ear cups, they're pretty large, they're circular, and they're absolutely gorgeous. You'll see that the grill here is this sort of glossy honeycomb shape, so it's sort of shiny, and then there's this ring of sort of sparkly navy blue around it. I like this look a lot. To me, it's has sort of a sense of classiness to it without being too flashy, but it's still really pretty. And they're not too heavy either. I actually was really impressed by the weight of these. They've somehow managed to keep the weight down. And then, additionally, that paired with the balance and the support of the headband just makes this a really comfortable headphone, for me at least. As for the ear pads, you'll see they're pretty thick. They're a little bit thicker in the back than in the front. And in terms of their softness, they almost have like a feeling of memory foam to them, but they're a little bit firmer than that. And I like that firmness. It really creates this sense of like solidity when they're on your head. They are coated in a Nappa lamb leather. So to the touch, they're super, super soft, and just kind of contributes to the comfort level, but also kind of adds to the sense of class of these headphones as well. As I mentioned, the cable that comes with the headphones is the Vivo cable. This is the premium cable from Mr. Speakers. And the reason it's so great is because it actually it's a silver-coated cable with OFHC copper. The idea being that it's very clean, low impedance, will really get you a very sort of dynamic and active sound. We'll see how it actually does sound, but That said, you can get sort of any connector. They've got 4-pin XLR balanced. Obviously, I've got the quarter inch 6.35 millimeter. They also have the 3.5 millimeter 1/8 inch cable as well. Now these cables are coated in this braided cloth here. It's actually loosely wrapped around the cable, so as you can see, it can sort of like twist, and I wonder if that will get annoying over time. I'm not really sure, like if that sort of loosens up at all. However, it does seem well made. I know they're sort of custom built, at least it sort of seems so. And the connectors here are very well made. These are Neutrik connectors, so they have a sense of heftiness to them. And in general, the cable has a sense of heftiness to it too, and I think that will come across to you as I'm just sort of holding it and showing you on the camera. There's definitely a sense of thickness here. As a result, it's a little bit bulky, but that said, it's also very manageable. It doesn't feel overly stiff. It still has this really kind of sense that it can move around, and because of that, because of the length of it, I really think that it's actually quite a manageable cable considering how sort of thick it is in general. All right, so let's give these babies a listen. Very psyched to hear them. All right, so I was just listening to the song "Kleba" by Erykah Badu, and yeah, the low end feels great. The kick drum in that song and the bass as well had this sense of like sort of danciness and activity dynamically that really contributed to the groove of the song. And the thing that I really loved about it was that the kick and the bass, both of which felt really big, also did a great job of living right next to each other without stepping on each other's toes. Both felt equally clear to me. The kick drum definitely had a great sense of extension, sort of shot downward. So yeah, I really like the low end on these. Lots of separation and spaciousness. All right, yeah, I was just listening to the song "Matter of Time" by Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, and with this song, the mid range feels really full. The bass guitar, I felt like I could really hear the tone of the amp in a way that was super satisfying to me, more so than usual. Especially, the low mids just feel really full and nice, not cloudy, just really kind of thick. As for the middle part of the mid range, that also felt really full. The guitars and the organs in this song had, a lot of complexity in their sort of harmonics and maintained that sense of roominess that I know so well in that song in particular. Now, Sharon's voice kind of felt like it was sitting a little bit further back in the mix than usual. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. It wasn't necessarily like quieter in the mix, it just sort of felt a little bit further back in space. So I want to examine that a little bit more as time goes on throughout the week. But the mid range was definitely entertaining and really kind of made this song super groovy. Just like the lows, there's a sense of quickness there. Maybe it's this Vivo cable, I don't know, and in combination with the planar magnetics here. All right. I was just listening to the song Daydreaming by Middle Brother. I love this song so much. And in the song, it's really like acoustic guitars, strumming, rhythm parts, a lot of finger picking. And I could hear the clarity and sort of um, there's a lot of spaciousness around those guitars, and yet they really sort of like moved a lot. And this added to sort of the groove of the song and the emotional impact of it. John Macaulay's voice sounds beautiful, it's airy, and it's articulate. His sort of like gravelly texture to his voice felt a little bit more relaxed than normal, but it still sort of maintained its place in the mix, level wise. The thing that I really loved about these headphones with that song was I could really hear sort of when the acoustic was being played, and the electric for that matter, was being played with a pick versus when it was being played with fingers. And that sort of difference really contributes a lot to just sort of the overall takeaway of the song because when it's being picked, there's a lot more energy there versus when it's, finger stuff, it's sort of, there's this different sort of feeling to it, and harmonically it came through with this. There was like maybe a little bit of peakiness up in the highs, and I wasn't really able to put my finger quite on it, but just want to sort of mention that. And that said, I haven't really done too much burn-in with these, and that's probably going to be recommended since they're planar magnetic. So just keep that in mind going forward. But I will sort of keep you updated as the week goes on when I go back to the Major Hi-Fi office for my overall thoughts. But for now, there did seem to be a little bit of like something up there that wasn't quite smooth. But that said, it was really aesthetically pleasing, and there's a lot of detail up there, especially with those acoustic guitars, just sounded really pretty. Wow, the soundstage of these is like extremely fun. I was just listening to the song Fever by Ray Charles and featuring Natalie Cole. And the thing that sticks out most to me in the soundstage is the sense of height. Like, especially in that song, there are finger snaps, there are hand drums, there's sort of these different percussion instruments, and then, of course, the vocals, and all of these sort of rise like way above the head and just feel so dimensional in the vertical domain. And then, but as a sort of a contrast to that, the bass guitar is anchored right down low, below my gut. It just like, yeah, it feels really, really cool and very spacious in the sense of height. In terms of the sense of width, also feels super spacious there. The depth feels nuanced. I could really hear sort of the guitar and the keys sort of living backward in space. And this also contrasted really, really beautifully with the vocals, which sit right up front. And I think that's sort of the thing that's most noteworthy about these headphones is that there's sort of this super nuanced and expansive feeling to them, but it maintains in a really beautiful way that intimacy that you need in order to get emotions across. And in this song, another thing that I thought was really, really powerful and super well done was that the instruments that are sitting backwards in space, so in this case it's the keys and the guitars, and also the strings. These things are sitting further back in space, so naturally there's a little bit less detail there. I mean, that's sort of what it means to feel backward in space. However, these headphones do a great job of representing the sort of harmonic complexity of those faraway instruments in a way that makes it feel really realistic and sort of come through with a sense of like, trueness that sometimes you lose when things feel far away. They feel far away, but they still have their sense of harmonic complexity, and that's a beautiful thing. Anywho, I am really excited to keep listening to these throughout the week, and I will meet you back at the Major Hi-Fi office for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the Ether Flow 1.1 are dynamic and quick. There's a lot of activity there. As a result, low frequency rich instruments and transients really contribute a lot to the sense of groove of the song, really kind of make it quite fun and dancey. There's a lot of space around the lows as well, so they come through with a lot of details. You can really hear the full sustain of these low frequency instruments. There's sort of two boosts in the lows. One is near the sub region, somewhere down in the subs, and this sort of small boost goes a long way, creating a really nice, spacious sense of extension. And especially kick drums just really seem to sort of shoot downward, but also things like bass synths, anything that really kind of uses a lot of sub energy in its sort of emotional impact comes through with a really great sense of sort of three-dimensionality and extension. Now, the other boost that I sort of experienced was right around sort of the fundamental of where a lot of kick drums sort of live. And as a result, kick drums came through with a little bit of extra power than they do usually. I wouldn't necessarily say that there was a very dramatic change in the overall sort of level of them, but it just kind of felt more energetic. The mid-range has a wonderful sense of vastness and fastness to them. similarly to the lows in terms of its transient response and just overall kind of energetic dynamics. So the mid-range has a little bit of a broad cut in the high mids, and this does a few things to the mid-range. On one hand, it leaves a lot of space, sort of almost pushes things out to the side, it feels like. It also sort of changes a little bit of the way that vocals sit in the mix. Um, their level isn't necessarily dipped, but just the overall way that they sort of come across changes a little bit. They feel sort of relaxed. This high mid cut affects the way that vocals sit a little bit in the mix. So, for example, it will sort of end up accentuating a little bit of the airiness of the vocal and also sort of the mid-rangey sort of body of the vocal, whereas sort of that other part right in the high mids is a little bit more relaxed. The mid-range feels super full. Guitars, pianos, everything sort of comes through with a sense of harmonic complexity, which provides really a sense of realism in that sort of region. There is a little bit of a low mid boost. This makes bass guitars sort of sit a little bit forward in the mix. Things like cellos, synths, everything kind of has a little bit of extra thickness with that low mid boost. The thing most interesting about this low mid boost is that instruments living down there still maintain a sense of clarity and separation from each other, as opposed to feeling cloudy at all. Like the rest of the frequency spectrum, the high frequencies are fast moving and detailed and really sort of contribute overall to the groove because of its dynamic clarity and its dynamic expression. There are boosts both in the lower treble of the headphones and the upper octave, and both of these sort of contribute to different things. On one hand, the lower treble boost really contributes to a sense of articulation in vocals and also creates this sense of presence and kind of helps things that are set to be really important in the mix kind of step forward a little bit. On the other hand, the upper octave boost contributes to a sense of airiness and really creates this sense of wonderful extension that makes the soundstage really amazing. Additionally, there's a little bit of a cut in the upper treble, and as a result, this kind of comes across as vocals having a little bit less texture, sometimes strings having a little bit less texture. That said, this same cut contributes to vocals not having much sibilance at all, and really makes these non-fatiguing and great for listening for long listening sessions. That said, when I was sort of experimenting with different listening volumes, I found that sometimes at higher listening volumes, sometimes the highs would come across as a little bit harsh. That said, I usually listen to a pretty moderate level, 85 dB, 90 dB. That's where that's where I feel like most comfortable listening. And at those listening levels, it really felt great, and I could listen for a long time. Now, the soundstage on these is expansive, and it's super, super fun to listen to. The sense of height, because of the low frequency and the high frequency extension, which already is just expansive, really creates a very vivid and nuanced sense of vertical kind of stretch tallness, for lack of better words. Additionally, the sense of width also comes across as being very expansive. It sounds like things that are panned out really far sort of are thrown outward. But the thing that's most interesting about that sense of width is that the phantom center feels really strong. Really feels like these are both speakers here are matched really well, and thus they come across with a real sense of unity. I really also enjoyed the sense of depth with these headphones because while there is great contrast between things that are sort of further back in space and things that are really close to you and intimate, the thing that these do really well is that they will make the things that feel further back in space still maintain a sense of complexity and a sense of like nuanced harmonic information that sometimes gets lost when things feel further back in space. Additionally, the strong mid-range really helps room mics come through with a lot of sort of accuracy, and also gives reverbs, more presence. Gives them the full sort of sustain that they need in order for you to feel like there's a sense of distance between you and that instrument. Overall, the Mr. Speakers Etherflow 1.1 is a really fun pair of headphones. The sense of dynamics and the activity there really contributes a lot to the emotional impact these headphones have. Additionally, they're very spacious, their soundstage is super fun. So if you're looking for something that has those kinds of qualities, I think that these would be a really good option for you to consider. In terms of sound signature, this will be a great headphone for those that like a little bit of a bump in the bass, but that also like a lot of clarity across the rest of the frequency spectrum. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright, I will see you next time. Bye!